Hello, KFC SuperCoach. It's a game day podcast, massive show. We have KFC on the table. We've got all the Origin wash-up. Plus, we have the OG podcast crew back together with Rob Sutherland, Tim Williams. Rob, I'll start with you. Biggest issue facing your team this week? And you've told me that this is going to be good.
No, I just told you it would be annoying, which is much more on brand, Thomas.
That's good.
Yeah. Look, it's am I ever going to fail to see Kyle Felt's face again in my team? I picked him as a joke, and I just can't get rid of him. He's amazing. Another 90. It may be boring, but I'm coming back to that well over and over again. I love you, Kyle. I love you.
Tim Williams, great to have you on the show again. What's the biggest issue with your team?
Good to be back, mate.
Maybe something out of Origin, not gloating, backhanded gloating. Like
that wasn't really backhanded. That was just straight down the line.
It's not even an issue.
Firstly, I can't believe I've finally timed an episode with the KFC here. I've been, in all my years of jumping on the show sporadically, it's finally landed with it. So 11 a.m. KFC, the only thing that can fix the Origin Blues at the moment. Biggest issue facing my side, look, aside from the obvious Origin backups and praying that Critter doesn't back up and Peachy plays centre against the Knights and Martin doesn't back up and Hosking plays 80, similar vein to yours, the bloke who's done a tremendous job for my side, but he wasn't a joke pickup. He's a serious pickup, but it became a bit of an ongoing joke. Phoenix Crossland cannot find a way to leave my side at the moment, and every time I need him to deliver, being around 13 and 16, he's done that for me well. I've caught upon him, and I'm going to need him to deliver again this week.
Is it because you and he are quite doppelgangerish?
I've got me, Phoenix, and Zach Hosking, my other doppelganger, all in my side at the moment. So I feel like I can't really part ways with him. But I would like to get a shot together at one stage.
You probably couldn't. I'd allege, that it's impossible to get you three in the same room. Yeah.
My biggest issue is I just need these Queensland boys to just been a bit sensible after their win last night, not had too many 4Xs, because we've got so many SuperCoach relevant players from that Queensland team, particularly for me, Harry Grant, but there are so many like Tino's really popular this week, Cameron Munster's really popular this week, so we'll run through it soon, but we're going to have a crack at who we think will and won't back up. I'm going to mention what's in front of us here. This is the Friday Night Footy Feast. You can get delivery of the Friday Night Footy Feast every Friday on the KFC app. We're going to get stuck into it in a sec. Send your questions through. We're going to pimp your teams.
Tommy.
You are?
Can I come back to it? Tommy, I've got to come back to it, just briefly, because before we came on air you mentioned that Mrs. Sangster and the baby Sangsters were out of the house.
Yes.
Is there any truth to the rumour that you get a double Friday night footy delivered as a result?
Oh, I hope so. I'd be keen for it. I've got some vouchers at home as well, but you have to go.
Hold on, you just dropped that. When do they ever come into the office? No, never. Let's address this off air.
These mystery vouchers.
Oh yeah, they're like your QR code, aren't they? Yeah, the extra trades.
One. You've somehow conveniently forgotten about it.
I
gave pretty much everyone in the office a $15 voucher, and then I kept 30 for myself.
I will say, I believe it. Like Tommy's in a bit of shape at the moment underneath that green trackie.
Yeah. Been trying hard, but I'm going to try and ruin it today.
All right, I'll let you come back to the run sheet now.
Send your questions through. I'll get them up in a sec. A little bit lagging behind today. So let's do the burning issues.
Zuckerberg's definitely a Blues supporter. He slept in this morning and that stuff. I don't care if Facebook goes down.
We're allowed to get stuck into that now, by the way. There were 5 people in here setting it up before to make sure it looked all perfect. But from now, we're allowed to start eating. Tommy Turbo looks like he's out for the season with that pec injury picked up last night. Big SuperCoach thing, obviously. To start with, he was one of the most purchased players coming into Team List Tuesday, then got named in reserves. I mean, now he's obviously a sell, but who do you go to? Does Kaio Weeks become a buy? Does Ruben Garrick move into fullback now? There's so many things that could happen out of this injury.
Yeah, I think for obvious reasons, massive implications. The smallest of small silver linings for Tommy Turbo owners is, I think he was 100-1 to back up this week anyway on the 3-day turnaround from Origin, and I honestly thought he probably would have sat after Origin 3 in round 20 as well, because it was also a 3-day turnaround. So I don't think he would have been playing for you anyway, but still a massive, massive blow for those owners. The implications are massive on Ruben Garrick, obviously, because I wouldn't be too disgruntled by his 20 points at centre last week, because it was without Daly Cherry-Evans, who the service he was giving him, having moved to that right centre edge when he scored his 169, was tremendous. So last week was a bit of a put a line through a game, but just Manly in general without Tommy Turbo and what that means to them. I'm praying that Garrick moves back to fullback now in his absence and not KO weeks. I feel like KO is a short-term solution. Well, not short-term, but building for the future. But for this season, I think Garrick has to be the number one choice.
I'm with you. I think another silver lining is that Turbo had 160 and then 120 odd. So if you're getting out, at least you're getting out ahead, right? So there's nothing worse than getting out behind. And I agree that I think Garrick will probably go to fullback, but I don't think it's going to be this week. You know, they named the team with Turbo at 22 or something. So they obviously intended to roll out weeks this week, and I assume they would have trained that way. Maybe they make the call after this game, but I don't think this week gives us a guide as to Garrick, but I'd be holding, and I am holding.
He becomes, if he does stay at centre without Tommy Turbo on that side, like an antipod, like a sell move. You wouldn't be doing it this week, obviously have a look at it, but if he goes to fullback, I think he scores thereabouts as good as he does when he's at his best on the wing.
Agreed, he's better at fullback, but you're going to wait a week at least to actually see what they do, I think.
Plenty of questions coming through, and send your sledges as well, your zingers. This will pop up on the screen if you send a good zinger. There's some decent stuff coming through. Why is Phoenix Crossland on the panel?
Because his brother's a really good football player.
Yeah.
That's a zinger from the panel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just milking it till he completely falls off the radar post-retirement.
Jason saying, what a great collaboration. Get a chip in you, Timmy.
Get a chip in you. Bloody oath. Righto.
And is Garrick a trade if not picked at fullback? I think we've basically covered that now. And Rob on the Sting is looking like he's cried all night. You were just telling us before how relaxed and calm you are today.
I am. I'm not going to lie, I'm in a bloody shitload of pain, and my shoulder's killing me. So if I do look like I'm about to cry, it's quite potential that I am about to cry. It's not, but I'm holding it together for Timmy. We don't get him on here very often, and I want to look good in front of one of my heroes.
Have you been needled up to get through the podcast?
I had a cortisone injection a couple of days ago, and it hasn't really kicked in, unfortunately, so I'm still on the endos. Yeah.
Oh yeah, lucky you haven't dropped one already today.
No, I'm holding back. I wanted to stay sharp instead of just dribbling down the front. Yeah.
All right, more burning issues from Origin last night. Only fines for Luai, Reece Walsh and Adokar, those three guys who got sent off or sin bin last night. The most Supercoach relevant there is Reece Walsh, who's actually pretty popular this week, and he's been a pretty popular hold for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, he's a really tempting buy, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he was unbelievable last night. He's just got that extra yard or 10 of pace on everyone, and the Broncos are firing. They've got two really nice matchups against Queensland sides coming up, and despite obviously missing round 19, he's pretty tempting.
There's a definite trend this week, I've probably noticed it most, that people are trading to set up their team for the rest of the season as opposed to trading to set yourself up for this final bye that's coming up.
I think you just try to, in the ideal situation, you get both, but truth be told, with trades running low, you've got to set yourself for the 8 weeks or whatever it is after 19, not for 19. So, and we've all now had a bit more experience of best 13 and seen that a really good 12 gets us through the 13 and holds your position.
Payne Haas played 67 minutes last night, so you'd have to think he's a massive chance you're not owning him.
No. I haven't owned him all season, so I'm very happy to see him play.
What a death ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest him, surely.
I don't think so. I think he backs up.
I think he's the guy who's most likely to not back up, but looking at those Blues guys, I think a lot of them will want to get out on the field as fast as possible, so I'm not too worried about those guys. I am a little bit worried about the Maroons guys if they had a big celebration last night, but then you look through their forward pack and the minutes were really spread. So the Supercoach relevant guys, you've got Harry Grant at 51 minutes. You'd think he'd be a decent chance to back up. I know it's only a 3-day turnaround. Tino, 42 minutes, who's really popular this week. And David Fafita, who obviously picked up that concussion in Origin 1, he only played 49 minutes. So hopefully all those three guys and a bunch of others are decent chances to back up this week.
I'm hoping Feeder does, because he had that, I think it was 400s in a row, was it 300s in a row? It was a significant run. And then the concussion, then the limited minutes. I'm bringing in Big Tino this week. It's my sort of luxury buy. I think I'll get it here later as my guilty pleasure, but I'm throwing it in early. I know it seems silly, like you're buying a guy who doesn't help you in 19 and has another Origin game to go, but the Titans have played all their buys. His form's phenomenal. His base is almost 60 at the moment. With attacking stats and upside, yeah, I'm grabbing him.
Let's chat Friday night footy. Right, Friday night footy, obviously big game coming up with the Dragons v the Warriors. On Friday night, Shaun Johnson is the most purchased player this week. Is he in for you?
He is. Selling, I didn't want to do it. Trades are running low, but I just, the form, the price, no offence, the opposition, all says buy. I'm selling Sean Moses and bringing in...
Mitch Moses.
I told you, I'm not at the top of my game. I'm feeling it. It's a portmanteau of the two. I'm selling Mitch Moses and bringing in Shaun Johnson.
Why selling Mitch Moses?
Because he's got a 5-round average of 100. Who can maintain that? No, but the way I look at it with Origin, I'm assuming he's going to play in Origin 3.
Maybe,
maybe not. Who can tell? But, my RC picks have worked this year, so I'm going to keep it rolling. And it's that if he does play in Origin 3, then I think he plays 8 games. And Shaun Johnson plays 10 from here out. And Shaun Johnson plays 19 and Mitch doesn't. So, it's not the smartest move, but it's the move I'm making. And 2 weeks ago I was picking between the two, and I picked bloody Moses, and he got picked for Origin. So I'm going back to my gut, which is considerable, and I'm going to allow it to guide me.
Can't argue with the results, mate.
Speaking of Mitch Moses potentially not getting named for Origin, what are the chances that Freddie and co just throw the toys out of the cot and pick a team for the future in round 3, in Origin 3, and we get guys like Kaloa Matangi, Campbell Graham, Matt Burton potentially come into that team and completely stuff up our Supercoach sides?
I think there's a real chance of it, and I think there's an enormous chance that Nicho Hines is our number 7.
Yep.
And, I think that's probably a bit harsh on Mitchy Moses, who I don't think was too bad last night. Didn't have his best game, but he was hardly the reason we lost. But Nicho Hines, who, the debate is we need to get him in, give him a game. Why wasn't he picked for this game? Like, you've got a free crack at it, a dead rubber. Of course the Blues want to win it, but what an opportunity for Nicho Hines to run at number 7, which would likely see Mitchy Moses be available for that round 19 for Parramatta. Campbell Graham is a guy who, at the beginning of the week when teams were named, I had listed as looking to trade him in. That was pending a Blues victory. We now know that hasn't happened. I think he's got to be every chance to play Origin 3. So for that reason, I'm going to avoid picking Campbell Graham.
Yep. Back to...
Can I stop? I'm with you on Campbell Graham, but I'm actually against you on the idea that Freddie throws his toys out of the cocks. Let's be honest, this is Freddie's last game as well, right? He might as well take the guys he knows and likes into his farewell game. He's going to trust these picks. I do think Graham comes in, but there's a hole there, so someone's got to fill it. Kaloa Matangi's the one that I'm scared that would go in. He was the player I was looking at buying, but I think he could play Origin. I know Tino will, so I'll buy the known goods as opposed to the risky goods.
Back to the Friday night game and Ben Hunt, an interesting story. Pete Bedell got him after the game last night. There's some good quotes in there basically saying he doesn't want to be at the Dragons. He wants to return to Queensland, where the Titans are obviously the main option for him. But he did say, I got through Origin fit, so he looks like he's going to play on a 48-hour backup.
Well, he kind of should. I mean, he didn't play huge minutes in Origin. I'm not against how much he gets paid. I think these NRL players earn every penny, but he's on a lot of money per game. I think he needs to play in every game he possibly can. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think barring a 90-kilometre-an-hour wind blowing in over the sea there, I think the Warriors are going to put 50 on the Dragons. So,
mate, it's down in Wollongong.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
Because if it was at Cogra.
Ah, here we go. Right, I thought you were going to do this. It's at win.
Out.
We're always good at win. I'm like, you can't be good at both grounds.
No, not good
you
at
get
win.
one.
Not good in Wollongong. The heartland of the Dragons is the St George area. Cogra Oval, we're a different team.
Well, yeah, you're Illawarra.
No.
Cogra can have the Dragons.
No one else wants that.
I'm going to move on. Tohu Harris, is he a keeper to the end of the year? When I brought him in, I basically locked him in for the rest of the season. But is he up there with guys like Tino and David Fafita, Hopgood, he's just on that level slightly below.
Yeah, because you've got him at the level below. You need to move him the level up. At front row.
Yeah,
He's in keeper.
good shout.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Good call.
Sorry, I didn't. Go ahead.
No, it's a really good. I mean, it was exactly what I was thinking, but in probably less enjoyable terms. As I said, at second row, like when you mentioned Hopgood there, like, no, he's not on Hopgood's level in 2RF, but as a front rower, I think he's rock solid. It's the same each and every year in the front row. It's just not a position to make up ground. Like Tino and Payne Haas, they're clearly the top two picks in the front row forward, right? But like, they've been brilliant this year, and they're still not hurting you. But not only if you've got Tohu Harris or Joe Tarpany plugging away with mid-60 averages and being rock solid, I don't think it's place to make up ground. That being said, the play post-Origin people will be to get in Tino and Payne Haas and run with those two. But if you're currently sitting there with something like Tohu and Joe Tarpany, and then you're still trying to get in players like Cameron Munster or Harry Grant or, Latrell Mitchell post-Origin, I know where my focus is going.
Yep, 100%. I do tend to agree there. Bronson is saying, geez, there are drunk trades and then there's post-Origin trades on another level. Selling Moses needs to go home for a nap and then reinstall the app when he wakes up. That's from Harrison. We can zing that.
Oh, God, him again.
Harrison always comes. He pretty much wins Zinger of the Week every week. There are some late changes coming up this week, so let's do late mail. Cody Walker, hopefully back from that quad injury. He's had 2 weeks out, really. One with the bye and one where it was a late withdrawal. So hopefully we can lock him in. He's popular this week. Do you like him?
I think he's a great pick-up, and a lot of people are talking Cam Munster, but if you don't own Cody Walker, I think Cody's got to be the pick. The Bunnies have a really good draw. As you mentioned before, he probably does come into the Origin conversation a little bit now for Game 3, potentially, but let's say he doesn't play Game 3, he'll be available for the Bunnies round 19, which is important. He's just been tremendous this season, and Cam Munster obviously misses round 19. I wouldn't be shocked to see him not back up this week. Melbourne have the 3-day turnaround from Origin 2 and 3, so does he miss maybe one of those games? If not this one, round 20. He's probably player you want for the run home, Munster, but they also play Penrith next week, so that's a really tough matchup. So I think of those two, I'd be going towards Cody Walker.
Yep, fair enough.
Does have a BE in the 90s, so I'm not saying you don't get him this week. He's got the Cows, I think, and they do have a funny draw in that they're good opposition, but there's too late. He's still got 2 buys yet to come. So, as a head-to-head player, he's not a great pickup. As an overall player, I think he's a good get.
Yep.
Great to see Greg Marzu back in the NRL as well. I'll put this question to you, Rob. Luke Keary, do you think he plays this week? And then how does that affect Joey Manu? That's the big SuperCoach effect if Keary is cleared. Keary is cleared.
Say that 3 times quickly. Look, I think Trent Robinson is sort of renowned for being a straight shooter and always putting the fans in the forefront of his mind when he names his team. So if a guy's been named on Tuesday, he'll 100% line up. That's just the way. That's the Roosters' way. I got no idea, Tommy. I haven't been walking the dog by the park, so I'm sure I haven't got any inside info.
No mail for us. You were off last week. You said Billy Smith wasn't training, and then
I said he was training in a red vest, and read that for what it's worth, whether that means he backs up or not.
I'm
And that's exactly what I said. You can roll the tape back.
All right, let's do guilty pleasures. This is the player you shouldn't pick, but you just can't help yourself. Who is it? Who's
Sean Johnson. I mean, as I say, Mitch Moses 5-round average of 100, like in tremendous form. Arguably, possibly covers 19. Sean Johnson is on ageing hamstrings, but he's 100k less, and he's got a BE of like minus $1 billion. He's got a match-up against the Dragons. He's a great vice-captaincy choice, and you've got to follow your gut like I didn't last time.
Guilty pleasure for you?
I'm going to rewind because I haven't been on in over a month and say one that it's already happened and we've all been in the same boat, but your boy Billy Smith, 2 years in a row, just all look too good to be true and repping a 3-round average of about 30. Mate, what's doing?
Well, I mean, the Roosters' attack is not exactly zinging, is it, at the moment? His base is still good. It's not like there's complete lack of work, but the base has dropped off. The big thing for me was last week, the missed tackles. I think he missed 7 or 8 tackles. It was significant. And the run numbers are down on the first 2 weeks back. I'm cutting him a little slack. I'm expecting a bounce back.
Tell you one thing I've seen and sort of learning a lot more this year around, you see players come back from injury, or particularly players with a point to prove, I should say, who are playing for a position in the side, their first 2 weeks base numbers go through the roof. And then once they have a couple of good games and lock down their spot, you see their base drop from 40 to like early to mid-20s. Regress to the norm, I suppose, because they go, oh, I've semi-won this spot, I'm not playing for it as much, and it drops down. It's happened a heap of times this year.
And I'm sure the sternum injury, I don't know how long he's been carrying it for, but we think it's at least a couple of weeks, so that probably hasn't helped out as well.
Did break Robert Toya's face with his chest, so yeah, that's probably that's always tough on your body.
I'll give you another guilty pleasure and another one for you, same side, but Daniel Tupou, a bloke who, you know what, I feel he's one that I never quite end up owning because something always goes against him, but for a bloke this year who's had something like 7 of 9 scores under 50, but he's tick over 400k, based mid to late 40s on the week, and we know he's a base stat beast when it comes to SuperCoach. Not firing this year, the Roosters in general, but they do tend to come home with a wet sail. Are you tempted by him at all, or is it just like they're just not numbers up there this season?
To me, he's a little bit like the Tomololos. Though that's a guy I might pick up in round 6 if I was looking to build or find a value player. But at the moment, I've got cash, so I've got my 4 or 5 centre wings all in the 600k range who I'm happy with. But if you're looking at a 400k, I don't hate it, but I don't need it. So,
fair call.
Yeah.
Speaking of cash, let's do Cheapie of the Week. I'll put this question to both of you guys. Is it too late for cheapies now? I know a lot of people are just freeing up money by selling Nathan Cleary and Dylan Brown, etc. But is it too cheap? Is it too late for cheapies, rather? You've got Richie Kenner, who I think is the most popular cheapie this week, who's down as something like the 15th most popular purchase.
Look, the focus should definitely have shifted over the last couple of weeks to points over the cash generation.
Yep.
Now, every team's different. People that might have gone a little bit harder earlier on might still need to generate cash. You might not be happy with your overall squad value, but I think for the majority of us, it should be going towards points over cash. That being said, there's always time for a good cheapie, isn't there? Like, if they're right, and Richie Kenner, he's an interesting one because it's just job security, isn't it? Like, at the end of the day, he's on that right wing of the bunnies, which historically has been a lot weaker than the left, but this year we've seen that right just absolutely humming. So in a side with plenty of points in him that offers around 19 coverage, at 259k, need 24 break even, as I said, we're getting shorter on trades, but we also, people need to bring back Nico Hines, Nathan Cleary, Dave Fafita, all these big dogs. So cash is still important in that sense. So Richie Kenner, look, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tempted, especially now that, you know, we suspect Campbell Graham has every chance at Origin 3. That probably slightly solidifies his spot for round 19, but Tane Milne, Isaac Thompson, job security's not great, is it?
He did win that spot. I mean, I think Isaac Thompson's still injured, and then he won his spot ahead of Tane Milne, who got dropped. So I think the job security is okay, but it's not. I mean, it's not sensational.
He's an upside cheapie, so he's one you can get around. The one that I couldn't get around to use it, to flip it is Dylan Lucas. So he's at the Knights. He's being picked in the second row and went gangbusters last week against the Roosters. Yeah, he only made 50 tackles and he's priced at about 240k. You can get him in the centres. He's got a BE of -9. But the job security is not great. And then he's got that potential to go to the bench and kill you with 20s. Richie Kenner's either going to be a starting winger on one of the best attacks in the competition or he's not going to be in the team. So that's a cheapie you can get around. But the cheapie you don't want to get into is the guy who isn't going to be there. I will give an honourable mention to Braden McGrady at the Dolphins. Ewan McGrady's nephew, responsible for the greatest Rothmans Medal acceptance speech in history. He didn't want to appear. He appeared an hour late with a police escort, got up and said, "Thank you," and walked off. Like, that was the entire thing.
So that's why you're bringing him into your SuperCoach team?
If I was going to, I'd get him. But, I mean, it is... it's bloody Wayne, isn't it? Like, you picked Valence Tavare, scored 2 tries and dumped him. McGrady could score 4 tries, and Wayne Bennett just being sort of difficult would drop him again just to be Wayne. You can't be a bigger star than Wayne in Wayne's team, right? No one can have the headlines
he'd score 4 tries. They'd say, "Why'd you drop him, Wayne?" Because I can.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Actually, silly question, not answering it and walk off.
I don't hate Tafare as a buy this week, actually, now that he's starting, but it all hinges on Brenko Lee, who looks like he's a Wayne Bennett favourite, but we don't know how long he's out for.
Yeah, his calf, his knee, he's
constantly injured.
Yeah.
Coach captains, let's go. Very interesting captaincy stats this week. We've got Mitch Moses as the most popular captain at 19%. So presumably that means people are thinking that he will back up from Origin. Then you've got Nico Hines in there at 13% as well, and he is on the bye. So, and this is from the top 10% of SuperCoaches. So definitely people haven't picked their teams yet or locked in their teams post-Origin.
This shouldn't be called Coach Captains this week. This should be called Frank's Captains, because our digital sort of producer who's out the back on the couch with a massive hangover, because these are hangover captaincies from last week.
Yeah, true.
Hi, Frank.
I'm going to put you on the spot. VCs and Cs this week. What are we thinking? It's actually quite a tough week for captains.
It is an incredibly tough week for captains. I'm leaning at this stage. Like, we need to stay so flex with the trades this week because of potential ins and outs from Origin still. But leaning towards Mitchell Moses, vice-captain against the Dolphins, and then Cody Walker, that Sunday afternoon matchup against the Cowboys. Day game, I think that's set up pretty well for him. So I think Cody captain.
Yeah, I've got Cody locked in as captain as well, so that's a bit boring. But I do have Harry Grant.
VCSJ against your lot. Oh,
yeah, please. No, that's a good move. And then captaincy on
Ponga. Against my lot.
Yeah.
Interesting week.
Yeah, the issue... Oh, sorry.
I'm not expecting to use it.
I've got Walker and Ponga both at 5'8". I'd love to go one of them into another, but it can't happen.
Would you go... If SJ scores poorly, you'll captain Ponga?
Possibly.
Against Penrith in Penrith.
Oh, I thought he was playing... Oh, yeah, he played my lot last week. Talk about hangovers. I don't know who I'll captain. I don't know. Won't matter.
Tough week.
It just won't matter. SJ's going to score 150.
And that's the beauty of this week, isn't it? Like, I don't know about you boys, but pretty strapped for 17 quality players this week. So probably going to be a free VC loop.
Actually, I'll probably throw a Sarko. Why not? Against the Eels. It just scores no matter who he's playing against.
Well, we've got the question come through from Curtis. Curtis is asking, and it's related to what we're talking about, who do we trade Turbo for? Gutherson is popular. I mean...
Will Kennedy's
fullback's not quite the position it has been in the past, but Gutherson could be an option. Ponga at fullback, I think, is still a good buy. I still think he's at a decent price.
Ponga's probably the best value. I think Asako is a bloody good choice. People are still... You know, the price is right out there, but the price is there for any of the premium guys. I can't have Gutho. I can't believe he's going to ton up 3 in a row. I don't know. Maybe that's the non-owner speaking. You know, it's like you death riding Haas and David Fafita. But, yeah.
And one final question. We've kind of touched on it, but KO Weeks as a buy, you can pick him up for 260-odd K, and the positioning is completely weird. He's available at hooker and 5'8", I think it is, even though he's likely to play fullback. So that's the issue I've got. I think at 5'8", you want 2 keepers. So I'll rule him out for that position. And then he could be a potential option at hooker if you've still got someone like Sonny Luke, for example.
I've just got no confidence he's going to keep that fullback spot. If he was to keep it the rest of the season, sure, that dual positioning, very handy to have, probably generate some cash, maybe be an okay scorer, but I just have no confidence in it.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I've got a question for you boys on the spot, and this is what the SuperCoach masses are waiting on. He's been dropped, but is Samuel Afinu going to get his dual position next round of updates?
Yeah, he will.
Great news.
There's a few guys who I don't have the list with me now, but yeah.
Because that is a dual position that's going to come in. It's a Afinu owner who I hope he comes back in and starts this weekend, of course, and keeps going. But I've got a lot of dual front row, second row forwards in the front row spot at the moment, but none in 2RF. But to have him there to be able to do the old switcheroo at times, that'll be very handy back into the season.
Yep,
Mate.
he's going to get it. Harrison Edwards is another one he's going to get.
You knew you were going to get something for coming on the show, and it wasn't just KFC SuperCoach. Like Tommy, he'll always throw out a dual position. If you ever see Tom on the street, feel free to stop and ask him, because he's more than happy to do you a favour. He'll either give you the QR code for the extra, 5% of salary cap, or make a dual position for you, especially if it's your birthday.
Or I'll just throw out some KFC vouchers, like I've done plenty of times in the office, but
Once.
don't get any respect for.
Too nice to say no, but just make sure you record when you are so that you've got it on file.
Yeah, I believe it's legally binding at that point.
Right, big thanks to KFC. Big thanks. It was great to get the OG crew back together. Good luck on the weekend. Hopefully you can get a 17 on the park, and we'll catch you next week.